Okay, so we are still stirring, and I have to tell you that you didn't miss anything. You missed like 10 seconds of action here between video part 1 and video part 2. This is a really fast recipe, so I'm stirring, and as you can see, the fire's pretty hot. Like I would say it's a medium high, and this is the key bit. You need to stir constantly while your Play-Doh is cooking. It gets smoother and smoother as you're cooking it, and if you see big pockets of doughiness, you can squish them, but it basically gets thicker and thicker the whole time you're going. And this is why it's important to stir the whole time, because the bottom, where it's the hottest, is where it's getting thicker faster. This totally makes sense if you cook things on the stove a lot, but it looks different than other stuff that you cook on the stove because it's really runny on the top and it's really thick on the bottom, and you have to keep it from burning. So you touch the whole bottom of your pan the whole time that you're stirring, and as you can see, it's getting quite thick. So I'm just going to keep stirring and keep stirring, and it's going to get gloppier and gloppier. And within just a couple minutes, let's say within 3 to 5 minutes, it's going to come together into a big gloppy blob. It's going to start to look darker like that in some parts, and that's a good sign. And you're just going to keep stirring, and you might notice I had to move my hand because it's getting really hard to stir. It gets really thick. That's good. I'm gonna just keep stirring. I'm turning it around. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's some like really hunky chunky parts in here, as well as some liquid parts. So I'm trying to mix it up and let it move all around so that all the parts of my Play-Doh get all the way down to the hot bottom of my pan, and they can all get thicker. So I'm still stirring. It's getting much thicker, but I can tell that it's not done yet because it's still quite wet on top, so I'm gonna keep going. However, I'll tell you that it's getting close. And when it gets to this point and it's mostly solid but just a little bit wet, then you know you're really close. And I'll tell you that the thing that happens is that it turns into Play-Doh really fast at this point. So you get to a sort of turning point and it changes right quick. That's kind of what you want it to look like in the end. So my Play-Doh is almost done. Still a little bit liquid. And I would say as long as you don't burn your Play-Doh, you can keep stirring it. Like if you're uncertain when to stop, I would say it's better to err on the side of a little overcooked as long as you don't burn it. And as you can see, it's really coming up from the bottom now. This is good. We're getting there. I'm going to try really hard to flip it all over. Completely flip the whole thing. Can you see how thick it's getting? It's getting really thick. All right, now this is where I know that it's really time to stop. So I'm going to turn the fire off, and I'm going to reach behind my video man for some wax paper. Put the wax paper out on my counter. I'm going to turn the Play-Doh. See how it just flopped right out? You can scrape your pan to get the rest of it if you want to. And then it's super hot. At this point, I would recommend that you only have the grown-up do the touching, or even wiser, use a spoon, like spoon to spoon. But the good news is now it's super hot. It's not so hot that I can't touch it. Like I'm not hurting my hand. To a child, it might feel super duper hot, like too hot, but you can practice this with your parent. You and your parent can decide whether you need to wait or not. I find that I can touch it pretty soon. I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit, and then I'm gonna knead it and knead it and knead it and push it and pull it and fold it and turn it and squish it, and then I'm gonna play with my Play-Doh. There you go.